Welcome to unPACKed, an open-minded podcast taking a clinical, not political approach to helping pet parents around the world. I'm Sailor Jerri, certified dog trainer, virtual dog training revolutionary, owner of Tulsa Pack Athletics, and creator of the open-minded approach.
And I'm Mattison, her friend, certified dog trainer and behavior consultant. Together, we have nearly 3 decades of experience in behavioral dog training.
We've been working with real dogs and the humans who love them to create solutions to problematic behaviors that feel too big for them to tackle on their own.
This is unPACKing 2024, a special 2-part episode to close out the year and kick off season 3. Jerri and I spent time reflecting on our personal clients from this year and each pulled 2 to unpack for each other and for you. These 4 cases are jam-packed with valuable insights, and you just may see your own dog reflected back in one of our clients. If you're ready to learn from real behavior cases, settle in with us and unpack. Well, the other case that I brought certainly had need for some different coping skills for her stress. So the other case that I brought is Leah, who is, in my words, a floofy chow mix. 17 breeds came back in the DNA test. And I got me a floofy chow mix.
17?
17 breeds.
Oh,
and
that's
she
precious.
wait till I send you a picture. She's real cute. And
Oh,
Remy's my
I love little
floofy chow.
indiscriminate fluff butts.
Right? Oh, it's totally my type. She is 3 years old and they've had her since she was a puppy. Now, they came to me, Jerri, I mentioned this to you, after a tough moment, and how sometimes we have people who come to us after like events, right? Like catalyst moments. And this was a tough one where Leah had actually snapped at one of the young children in the home and had been struggling with anybody new, especially coming into or being around the house. But there was an increased agitation with the young children in the home. 1.5 and 3 were the ages. So that looked like growling and snapping, which is very scary, right? That can be
my gosh.
I'm not a mother, but that's, I imagine, absolutely terrifying. And
Yeah.
this is really important because I don't want that to be a moment with no hope, because it can be a scary moment, but it doesn't have to be a hopeless moment. And it doesn't mean that there isn't a potential solution there. So Leah was described by Jamie as kind of a tough puppy, which, man, I've met a few sassy chows, and yeah, they have very big personalities, and they are not, there's a certain personality type to the chow and the chow-like dogs where they're a little bit harder to motivate, maybe a little bit harder to get to engage, a little bit more interested in things going on around you. Oh, and she struggled a lot with the groomer and at the vet. Anything related to body handling for the
I
floof?
bet she did.
Yeah. That is a real struggle
I'm
for
just
her.
laughing at all the chow-like tendencies, even though she's 17 different breeds. It's funny.
But but the chow is ringing true. But she really reached out about the children, the young children. Now, 3 kids, ages 1.5, 3, and 13. But Leah loves the 13-year-old. Has a very special relationship with the young boy. However, Leah had bit her husband when he tried to trim her nails once, and had recently lashed out to the husband about or around some type of resource. I think it was just her food bowl. But generally Leah was known as a pretty emotional gal, but started becoming more reactive at around a year old. So one of the first and most important things was really limiting and refereeing time with the littles, because I only had to watch one clip to see that they were, I could guess, but they were in her face a lot. They were trying
Girl,
to climb
I
on
bet
her.
you did see that. I was about to tell you, I bet those kids are all over that dog.
Because
And
it's
I'm not
a
saying that
cute,
as a
floofy
dig
dog.
in any way to the
I did that.
parents.
I did that as a child to our
Yeah,
family
we
dog.
don't
I
know
know
until
that
we
I
know.
did. That's
Yeah,
just it.
I happened to have a parent who was really, really good with animals and knew a ton about animals.
And so I did not grow up in a house. I mean, oh, I can't even imagine what my parents would have done if they saw me in my dog's faces or oh, like it sends chills up my spine at every one of those times could be a bite,
But my
you
parents didn't
know?
know that. Like I
Yeah, a lot of
remember
parents don't.
being
Yeah.
in my, childhood family dog golden retriever's face. I remember trying to ride her like a pony. Like I
Yeah.
remember doing things that would horrify me today,
Mm-hmm.
but you just
Mm-hmm.
don't know. And the truth
Yeah.
is that it can look like a cute, fun, playful moment until you know what you're looking at. And as soon as I saw it and I could help point out some things,
Mm-hmm.
it was very clear that in general, Leah was not happy. She was not happy with it, but was so clingy to her adult humans
Yeah, she couldn't get away
that
from the kids.
but she couldn't have both of those things, that she couldn't get away from
Right.
the kids and also be near her people. So she chose to stay around a stressful situation to be near her people. Now, the stress signs that Leah exhibited that I was able to point out, and the way that we trained meant that I filmed their clip and slowed it down and paused it and
Mm-hmm.
showed exact things. So that was panting, that was ears back, that was avoidance, that was appeasement licking of the kids, which again,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't know what you're looking at, is kisses, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's just giving kisses because she loves it. She doesn't.
Ugh.
I know. And it was a huge shift though. Like learning this, just learning what they were looking at shifted everything. And once they understood how to read her better, we
Mm-hmm.
basically just stopped the littles from being around her, unless it was a very intentional and positive experience that we set up where there was a gate and they were throwing
That's the best
snacks
rule
for her
there
to
is.
chase. It was
Mm-hmm.
great because 1.5 is not coachable. It's not even near
1.5
coachable.
is not coachable.
Three
Three is
is
not really
it
coachable.
depends. It depends on the 3-year-old, and
Milo
it's getting
was, my
closer.
youngest son was, yeah.
I've known three year
Um,
olds that I'm like, you're hired, but I've met 9-year olds that I'm like, get out of the room.
right.
So it's really child by child. And coachable is the quality that I look for. It's the only quality that I look for.
Yeah,
Can you listen to what I'm asking you to do and not do?
that's true. That's a very, very good point. I think it's very difficult for a lot of parents to hear that and I'm not insinuating this about this case, I'm speaking in general. It's difficult situations to hear that you didn't understand that your kid was running amok and pushing past boundaries. It can be difficult for people to hear that because sometimes, that may be the only place that they perceive that their child is doing that their
Mm,
kid may not really be maybe they've got a little kid that follows the rules and is just doing a great job all the time, and to hear that that child is doing something wrong, I think is what people will hear, when in reality the conversation is actually as the child is being a child and the dog is being a dog. They can't do anything else but those things. And in actuality, it's the parent's responsibility to learn and recognize body language, advocacy, making sure that everybody is consenting to what's going on and, putting action steps in place to make all of that stuff happen. I think
yeah.
that's deep down, I think that's what becomes difficult for people in cases like this.
Yeah. But we allowed there to be really specific and intentional positive experiences and just had a lot of management in place at other times. And then we made her, and this is going to be, I guess, my through line of my 2 cases I brought today. Then we made her a safe space, which they kind of already had. So we were able to just sort of, and it was a great little, like, I think it was from, like, it used to be the baby's spot, right? So it was like this nice little quarantined section. And so what we did was we just practiced sending her there and going there with her over and over and over and over. And then anytime that we saw those early signs of stress, right? We saw the lip licking, we saw the panting, we saw the ears go back. We would just go with her to her spot and just go with her and reinforce her being there instead. And we would leave with her and just show her, okay, we're going to go over here. And we made sure that the littles stayed in the other, stayed in the living space, and we would just go it was an if then. If she's stressed, we're gonna go together. We didn't even need a leash. We just grabbed some snacks and just walked over. I think we had a verbal cue. I think it was like spot or something, right? Like, Leah, go to your spot. And we just over and over and over. And then lo and behold, when she was stressed, She would start wandering over
Lo and
to her
behold,
spot.
a dog learns how to choose avoidance.
She was actually one of the fastest cases I've ever seen of a dog being like, "Oh, that's way less stressful. I'm doing that
Yeah,
instead."
that's how
She was,
Enzo is.
yeah,
I have used
just
that
give me a better
same
choice.
exact thing on Enzo for his entire life because I've
Mhm.
always had, I got all these damn kids, and he always, if he knows got a spot, he avoids every single time. He just
Mhm.
knows he can get up, and that's exactly how I taught him. If I saw him looking weird, I was like, "Oh, here we go, let's go,"
Mhm.
and I would
And
take him to
then
his spot, and then he was fine.
she would decompress there and then begin to even rejoin the family when she was feeling
Hmm.
less stressed. And also that gave the
Yeah,
kids an
that's awesome.
opportunity to kind of like wind down, and then she
Hmm.
would come back and join. And it was, again, a great example of a dog who is ready to accept a new and less stressful behavior pattern. Like,
What a great dog! Wow,
oh my God, I love her. So we
so cute.
actually blew through that pretty quick, to be honest, and started working on some stranger danger stuff pretty quick.
Oh,
This was a,
cool.
fairly local family, so I knew I could work virtually and then also go in person to work the stranger danger. So we built a framework for Leah to meet some new people, and be able to accept them into the home. So this was parallel walks outside, going at her own pace, disengagement before interaction, muzzle conditioning, which ultimately with me was not needed at all. But for the vet work and grooming cooperative care that we did was needed because again, we were able to just like check off a lot of things to the point where now Jamie can literally comb her entire body, cut out all of her mats. She will shove her face into the muzzle, still hates the vet with a like deep burning desire. But they were able to get her there and have a full checkup, and they had a system in place. So I think this was a really incredible transformation on how Leah handles and communicates her stress, right? So instead of staying in a stressful situation and lashing out, she learned how to regulate and how to communicate her own boundaries in like that whisper, right? Instead of having to resort to getting louder until we're throwing bows, she learned that her whispers would be answered. And we were able to, within 2 1-hour in-person sessions, Leah brought me toys inside the house and was pushing up into me for pets. Now, I don't think that that would happen with every human that walked in the door. Like, I passed the vibe check in a way that not every person is going to, and she's more sensitive to men than to women, which is fairly common, I feel like. But their relationship is so good. She still struggles with the vet, like I said, but they have the skills and tools to work through all of that now. And again, I got an update. I got this last week from Jamie. Hey, Madison, I just wanted to share with you this progress that Leah has made recently, where she is coming up to the littles and asking for love. We make sure to keep a close eye on everything to see if it's too much, but she's really starting to gain more confidence around them, and she just gets up and leaves when she's had enough. I'm so proud of her.
Well, that's got to feel pretty good.
It feels very good. And this was, like I said, those initial client calls when you're coming off of a catalyst moment where there's a high risk situation with young children, like that's scary and that's emotional. And
Hmm.
people feel literally hopeless. Like, this is it for me and my dog. And don't get me wrong, sometimes the answer is that that dog needs to not be in a home with young children, but that is not where we have to jump. There is solution if you're willing to work and get to know your dog in a new way.
Well, my last case is all the way in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Adriana and the crew, as I dubbed them.
Oh, I'm so excited to learn about them.
Yeah,
I've seen them. I saw in your stories, and I don't really know much more than that. So I'm really excited to hear this.
she is a really cool, interesting person that I watched go through something that was difficult. And she was constantly always thinking about her dogs and what she could do, to do a better job. And she had, I think, less than a lot of us have when we're on this journey. And she did not complain about it, and she made the most of what she had. And I'm just so impressed with her. So impressed with her. So Adriana has 5 dogs.
A lot of dogs.
5 of those
That's
little
four more than
muffins.
either of us has.
That's right. So Paco is the biggest, and he would be like a medium-sized dog. So like a small heeler-sized dog. There is Pancha, who is slightly smaller. There is Pirilulo, which is Lulo, and he's like min pin size, big min pin size, maybe Jack Russell size. And then there's Bebe, who's even smaller. And then our three-legged wonder,
Baby.
Chuchi Frito,
Tutti fritto.
which is my favorite dog name that I've ever heard in all of time. You guys, I've heard tens of thousands of dog names. When you're a vet tech, you hear literally every name that you could ever think of, but I'd never met a Chuchi Frito. And I thought, that's great. She did a really good job. So she came pretty stressed out because of the situation that was going on in her life, which I'm not going to go into detail about here because it isn't really relevant. But I will say that many people are going through changing an environment or moving from one place to another. So this would fall into that category. She knew that she was going to be moving to a new place, and she felt like she had a system. She had a management system for these 5 dogs. They stayed outside on a patio during the day, and then she would come and feed them at different times of the day, spend time with them, that kind of thing. But she couldn't really, it was chaotic. And she
Yeah.
couldn't, it was just they were jumping everywhere all the time and barking and, kind of just what you would think of when you think of 5 little dogs all vying for attention and resource. And sometimes they would fight, because they'd be resource guarding and one of them would be fighting over a toy and, just nothing extreme, but definitely hard to function. And she wanted to do more with them. So she came to me for some help. And I noticed pretty quickly that all we were dealing with was a person that didn't understand how to manage a large number of dogs. The dogs really had very minimal actual behavioral problems that were stemming from anything other than being with a bunch of dogs and not having the right management system. So that was cool because we got to go maybe a little bit faster than a dog who was, having some underlying emotional problems and then that were, having behavioral problems on the surface.
Yeah.
So the first thing we did was we got a really great, peaceful management system. So when she would go and open the back door, the dogs would run in and go everywhere. So before she went out there, she was getting their stuff ready. And that's fine and that's great. And it's important to be prepared. But we also needed to do something about the overall cycling, repetitious arousal that these dogs were getting in. They were getting excited. They're in arousal. They're jumping around and doing things that really, I don't think the dogs would really do if they weren't experiencing that level of arousal, based on their excitement that they're feeling. So we certainly didn't want to punish it. We didn't want to do any of that. We just wanted to manage it. So we changed to scattering. And the dogs learned that they could scatter and get their noses down on the ground, and she would get their, and then direct each dog into their crate where they would work on their snuffle mat. And then she would pull one dog out and train each dog at a time, putting the dogs back in, pull another dog out, put another dog back in. And that went really well. We added some play, of course, when that dog was out, not just, working with food, but also spending time together and having time and some structured play. And then once every dog was doing pretty good with that, we started grouping the dogs together. So we put dogs together that would do well together. For example, Pancha doesn't really like to play as much. I think she needs that built a little bit in her. And so she would go with the dog that was maybe not so over the top because she really just didn't care for that energy when she was out trying to visit with Adriana. Paco got to be by himself when he played because he's very energetic. He needs all of her attention. He also got to be by himself when she would take the dogs on what we would call mini walks. So we were starting to work with the dogs on the leash so she could get them out, and not just individually, but can we do 2 at a time? Can we even do 2 at a time? But Paco always got to be by himself. So that was perfect because there were 5 dogs. And he did really well. He was a dog that needed a little bit more of the walks and the outside stuff. So during the course of our training, she moved homes. And the place that she moved to, that yard was really cement. And so she had to figure out, what am I going to do? How is this going to work? So we got the dogs some raised beds, just whatever she could get, that was fine.
And then we put straw all over the ground. And she said the dogs really loved it. She sent me a really cute picture of them the other day. But mostly the things that we worked on were really just basic things like consistently managing their arousal when they're together as a group, making sure that each dog has individual attention and an individual training plan, making sure that she feels confident enough to walk, two dogs together or handle two dogs at the same time, because there's only so much time in the day. And she is, an adult that has to work like the rest of us. And we also worked on, I know, bummer. We also worked on the new place that she went to. The new place she moved into is a friend of hers. And that friend has been really, really helpful in making sure that she's consistent with some of the things that Adriana's working on. I think because she sees a lot of the benefit. If we go and scatter to the dogs, they're not going to bark at the cats that are walking across the rooftops that they haven't had the opportunity to see in their lives before. So that those were some of the things that she could pick up on easily. And Adriana wasn't there. She actually sent me a message. She sent me a lot of really cool messages, but this one was at the end of our training. She said, Jerri, thank you so much. I know I paid for us to work together, but I haven't felt like this experience was transactional. This has been a wonderful experience, and I have felt mindfully guided this whole time. You've been compassionate and empathetic and supportive, and this has felt like more than just dog training, which has made me better and stronger and more confident while teaching and handling my friends with 4 legs. I really appreciate you and what you do.
My friends with 4 legs.
I know. It's just so it's one thing to see dogs, dog parents implement something and then their dog gets it. That within itself is fantastic, right? We see it and we're like, oh my God, you're doing. But then when you hear their reflections about oh, so I just didn't know. I just didn't know. And now I know, and I'm trying really hard. And thank you for making this more than just put dog on leash, bleep, blorp, blop, robot. It's more than that. Animal husbandry is one of the most beautiful things I think in life. In life is learning how to care for and respect the animals that are here, not as we would have them to be, but as they are. And really thinking about what makes them successful in our homes and in society, because they're really special. And a lot of people love their dogs, but they don't even know some of this stuff, and it could go to a whole nother place of respect and reverence and admiration if they just had access to some of this information.
Yeah. Well, that's what we're here trying to do, right?
That's what we're doing. Yeah. That was a really fun case for me. It was also really nice to have another client once again introduce me to where they live and their culture and help me learn things that I can take, from that case on to the next.
Unpacked was created by Jerri Sheriff and Mattison Simpson, edited and produced by Josh Wasta under the supervision of Straight Up Dog Talk LLC and Emily Breslin.
If you are enjoying this podcast, follow or subscribe to be sure you don't miss an episode, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Looking for more honest and relatable dog content? Check out our sister podcast, Straight Up Dog Talk. See you next time.